Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. It is currently October 31st, which means tomorrow kicks off the month of November. And if history has taught us one thing over the last couple of years, this is when Dan Lanning likes to do his best work on the recruiting trail. In this month, in this year specifically, we could see Oregon build a lot of momentum. Now, why is that the case? Number one, because this is when Dan Lanning gets his most aggressive. Number two, look at the landscape of college football. All these programs that Oregon is competing with to sign these top kids at the high school ranks, there is not a lot of stability amongst a lot of these programs across the sport. We are going to see an unprecedented amount of coaches on the move the next couple of weeks. Massive opportunity for Oregon to come in and capitalize on that chaos. These kids want to go to programs that they compete for national championships with. Oregon checks that box. That they get developed at. Oregon checks that box. That they can play early at. Oregon certainly checking that box. But maybe most importantly, hey, where's a program I can go and I know it's going to look the same for the 3 to 4 years I'm on campus? There ain't a lot of programs that can sell that. You feel like Dan Lanning at Oregon. You feel like Dan Lanning can sell that. And that matters. And it matters in a big time way. Now, who are the names that we should be monitoring for Oregon down the back half of 2026? Because look, I remember talking about Oregon on the recruiting trail way back in the spring months. And there were a lot of national media members that were really concerned about where Oregon was going on the recruiting trail. The Oregon fans felt just fine. There was plenty of evidence in history that Dan Lanning going to figure it out on the recruiting trail. But now we're sitting here in the month of November saying we ain't that worried. And you could make the argument it's go time. I want to get into some of my favorite players that I think Oregon could have a shot with over the next couple of weeks before we do. And as always, to the Oregon fans, appreciate you guys, man. Whether we're talking this team on the football field, whether we're talking them on the recruiting trail, the amount of support this fan base has consistently shown the boys, been amazing. And it's going to be a really busy month on the recruiting trail, on the football field. We appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, for some weird reason, Oregon and LSU seem to find themselves in consistent, heated recruiting battles. We saw that play out in the summer months. We saw Oregon lose some of those battles for a guy like Deuce Geralds, for a guy like Avon Finny. That door is now opened. And I want to talk about my number one priority if I'm Dan Lanning. Four-star defensive lineman Deuce Geralds. To the Oregon fans who've been rocking with the boys way back to the summer months, we know this one came down to the wire. It was Oregon. It was LSU. They were slugging it out towards the end. LSU came out on top. Even when Deuce Geralds committed to LSU, we talked about, hey, what's going to happen if Brian Kelly doesn't have success this year? Well, we just found out Brian Kelly's fired. It opens the door. And I look at this, number one, the player. I think this kid freaking rocks. He's 6'2", he's 275. He is know who he kind of reminds me a little bit of, just a little bit smaller, a little bit leaner, Mari Washington. Like extremely athletic, extremely twitchy, lives to penetrate, get behind the line of scrimmage. That Deuce Geralds last weekend just set the record in terms of sacks in the state of Georgia at the high school ranks. Think about how many good players, so how many good pass rushers came out of that state the last 2 decades. Tell me Deuce Geralds is at the top of the list. I think that tells you the production that this kid can put up. I also look at it and say that this is a position where I think maybe you have some question marks. If Amari Washington decides to go to the NFL draft, if Bear Alexander, well, I think Bear Alexander will probably stay another year, but maybe not, kind of playing himself into that NFL draft conversation. Well, if Amari Washington and Bear Alexander decide to go to the NFL draft, that this position, those big bodies in the middle of that defensive line, that becomes really important position for Oregon to address and get bodies into the room. Deuce Geralds is one of those guys. We talk about it all the time. This is one of the positions you can't really address in the portal. There's not that many. And Oregon took a risk with Bear Alexander that is seemingly paying off for Oregon in 2025. Well, you don't want to put yourself in that position every year. Go get these bodies at the high school ranks, and you go and look at where the class sits right now. It's a thin class. You really only have one big body coming in. That's Tony Cumberland. To me, if there's one name that I want to see Oregon go get it done for, probably Deuce Geralds. Now, number two, another LSU cat that I really do like is Avon Finny. I don't know if this is as big of a need because you're so loaded at the boundary cornerback position. Right? I mean, when you have Brandon Finney and Naheem Offord, you feel pretty damn good. Ify Obadegu, he's a redshirt freshman. I feel like people act like he's a veteran on this Oregon roster. He's a second-year player. The young talent in the boundary cornerback room is freaky good for Oregon. I ain't passing up a guy like Avon Finny. He's 6'2", he's a buck 80. He runs a 10.9 in the 100-meter dash. He has started every single game since his freshman year, playing some of the best wide receivers in the country down there in Southern California. You take one look at him. This is the prototype that Oregon is looking for. We want size and we want speed. Like, go look at what they did with Naheem Offord. Go look at what they did with Brandon Finney. We're betting on traits. Avon Finney has that. Now, this one, hard to get a gauge on. I think this kind of depends on it. LSU has a cornerbacks coach in Corey Raymond. I think that's what you're looking at. If Corey Raymond stays at LSU, Avon Finney might stick with LSU. But if he doesn't, and the new coach brings in a new staff, Avon Finney's probably on the block. No doubt. Oregon is already contacting Avon Finney. No doubt they will go after him. Those are the two LSU names to keep in mind. I want to take us back to two storylines that we followed back in the summer that didn't go Oregon's way. Two Ohio State wide receivers, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, Chris Henry Jr., both playing at Mater Dei, high school that Oregon's had plenty of success recruiting the last couple of years. Both committed to Ohio State. Watch out for Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline's getting a lot of buzz, right? You look at Penn State, that they've already reached out to Brian Hartline, or at least that's what the reports are telling us. I wouldn't be surprised with the chain reaction we're going to see in terms of the coaching carousel. I think there's going to be some quality Power 4 jobs that maybe consider going out and landing Brian Hartline. I guess what I'm trying to say is what happens if Brian Hartline decides to leave to Ohio or leave from Ohio State, go somewhere else, whether it's Penn State, whether it's another program. Can Oregon come in and make something happen with one of these guys? I don't think they need to, right? I think you're real. I love the wide receivers Oregon has coming in. Not to mention you have DeCorian Moore, who's a true freshman. They like Cooper Perry a lot. Jeremiah McClellan, going to be a ball player for Oregon, kind of already turning into a ball player for Oregon. This is not a position that is a real – there's not really any positions that are massive concerns for Oregon outside of offensive tackle going into next year. You still don't say these are the kind of football players that you don't say no to. Even if we don't have a massive need at wide receiver, if Brian Hartline decides to leave Ohio State, you're going to kick the tires on both of these cats. And here's the other storyline, and you make no mistake about it. This is how Dan Lanning thinks about it. Who is Oregon's biggest competition in this conference going forward? It's still going to be Ohio State. If you have the opportunity to grab one of Ohio State's best wide receiver prospects, bring him to Eugene, not only are you adding a really good wide receiver, you are playing keep away too from a team that you need to beat every single year to win a Big Ten championship, to win a national championship. That matters too. Monitoring the situation with Brian Hartline at Ohio State and how that impacts Oregon, going to be a big deal as well. Last name that is intriguing is LaMarcus Bell. Another position where it's like, golly, do we need another running back? I don't know, but it sounds like Oregon likes this kid a lot. If Oregon wants him, they can go get him, right? There's, with all due respect to Utah, if Oregon wants a top kid in the state of Oregon, you feel like Oregon's going to go get that cat. And LaMarcus, there's a lot to like about LaMarcus Bell. What I like the most about LaMarcus Bell, he's just so solid. He's not one-dimensional. He's a multi-dimensional running back that can do a lot of different things. Sub 11 second in the 100-meter dash, really nice contact balance, nice patience as a runner, can work through contact. I don't know if he's elite at one thing. Like Jordan Davis, and he was elite as a physical ball carrier coming out of high school. I don't know if LaMarcus Bell has that elite trait, but he's damn good at a lot of different things. You want to go at another thing, you're slowly seeing Oregon, in my opinion, build their offensive identity around, hey, we're going to have an ass-kicking offensive line with a deep stable of running backs that can do a lot of different things. And we're going to run the damn ball. Well, stack backs in the room that you like. Maybe LaMarcus Bell is one of them. It's going to be exciting. Here's what I'll say is, I mean, you feel really good about, even though this is a smaller class for Oregon, man, it's blue chip city. Like every guy committed outside of, I believe, 2 are blue chip prospects. It's going to be a smaller class, but it's going to be a hyper talented class. And I'll say this, that there are some names that Oregon, I bet, will pursue that we don't even know about yet. That's just how Dan Lanning operates. That's what history has told us. Dan Lanning, he lays in the grass and he pounces when you don't expect it. That's just how he works on the recruiting trail. We'll see where Oregon decides to go. Gonna be a really fun story to monitor for the next couple of weeks. And again, you got to balance it because we got to win football games in 2025. You make no mistake about it. Oregon wants to be competing for national championships every single year. So we got to take care of business on the field. You also want to continue to build these classes out. That's where Dan Lanning operates, and that's how he operates. We'll close it out. Going to be really fun. We'll break down the commitments as they come in. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.